Okay, welcome back, Rich.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about 89 Upper Deck Baseball, the iconic inaugural offering from Upper Deck, which really was momentous in many ways. In a high-end brand, the debut of card number 1, which is the most graded card of all time, Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie card, best rookie card, I suppose. What are your recollections of that 89 Upper Deck set?
Well, 89, what's most fascinating was that it took forever to get that out to the market. We had Topps, we had Fleer, we had Donruss. They were all on the marketplace. Fleer had the big hype at the beginning of the year with the Billy Ripken Rick face card. And Topps was always Topps. They had all those rookie stars. They all the future stars. They had all those young guys in it. And Donruss had a bunch of rated rookies as usual, some of whom would eventually pan out and some of whom wouldn't, like Luis Medina, who was always, since there was the big hit at the time called Funky Cold Medina, I always have to think of him as Luis Funky Cold Medina. And there was a Cameron Drew rookie in there. And there's some guys in 89 Donruss, you would just say, who are these people? Even then, you would say, these guys are 25, 26 years old. Where are they going?
So we talk about Ken Griffey Jr. being nailed it, but there were other not winning lottery tickets.
Yes, even Upper Deck. Card number 3 was some obscure Pirates rookie card, and he was 26 at the time, and he was going nowhere mighty fast. Upper Deck did nail Griffey. Tom Guideman, who was working for Upper Deck at the time, is the guy who says, make him card number 1. And he was and for years, it was like an inside hobby secret that he's the guy that really was the focus of getting a lot of the stuff in the Upper Deck first checklist right.
Sage.
And he's with Sage
now.
He's
the GE of Sage.
And he's still active in the hobby, and he's...
Well, that's a great claim to fame. Do you remember the summer before?
The 88? I sure remember the summer of 88. I mean, I remember the hype about...
in an Upper Deck context of like at the National and Parsippany and those kind of
things. Well, 88, the National was in Atlantic City. 84 Nationals, 88 Nationals, Atlantic City. And, and Upper Deck was handing out promo cards, and they were... And,
Wally Joyner and Dwayne Bice, who were both...
California Angels.
Possibly owners. They were putative owners. They were wanting to be owners, but that was not allowable for active players to have ownership interest in a licensee.
So according to Pete Williams' book, Card Sharks, about Upper Deck, Dwayne Boyce eventually got like a settlement that was so large he was able to retire to some ranch and never be heard from again. And he doesn't have to deal with any of this anymore. And Wally Joyner continued playing another 15 years. And he had a very nice major league career too. And he's very dedicated to his faith, and he's basically had a nice retirement too. And so they both did very well for themselves. Upper Deck, in a lot of ways, could not have picked two better people to have been the faces of the original franchise.
Well, it seemed to work out for everybody. As I recall, Richard McWilliam, who later became the primary owner, was the accountant in the first ownership group. And there was was it Paul Sumner, who was the printer, and was it Bill Hemrick, who was the Upper Deck card shop.
And it was the name of the card store was Upper Deck.
And so those guys got together, and I admire people who do something that hasn't been done before, and they came together with their respective talents, and by all accounts, they hit it out of the park for quite a while.
They sure did. And, Upper Deck's still around today, and there's still a lot of, I'll use the word vestiges of 89, just on the fact that they still have a great name for a lot of people in the hobby because of what they've done in 89. I hear a lot of really good things when I read message boards about their customer service department. They've really stepped up that. Their designs on their sets are good, and they have a hockey license, and the hockey license is a perfect license for them at this point. It's not overwhelming, but, they can make money with it.
Well, I'm sure they'd like to have additional licenses.
I'm sure they would too.
But for whatever reason, and I've been not on the, I've been kind of retired, but I observe what's going on, and this movement toward more single source, monopolistic arrangements for one producer of cards within a sport. It is what it is. It wouldn't be the way I would do it, but I wrote
about that in the GTS column when just before Topps made it formal that they had extended their MLB properties license for many years. And I said, if you think about it, there's almost everything is an exclusive. My brother-in-law had just about had a contract signed with the Rangers to provide internet service and Wi-Fi to what is now called Globe Life Field. It may have still been the ballpark in Arlington at the time. And he was very frustrated. He's still upset that he didn't, get that deal because a national licensor got the whole deal. And my point was baseball wanted to deal with one person, not with 30 people having 30 licenses. They actually saw what happened with like Jerry Jones. Let's say Coke. I'm trying to remember. Coke was
Pepsi thing.
Pepsi thing. And it's a lot easier when you have one person to deal with and one group to deal with. And I get that from MLB Properties perspective. And so the NHL and Upper Deck have been excellent partners. So a lot of that was built on the 89 set. And the interesting thing with 89 is in a lot of ways, they started changing the rookie card rules. When they put the cards 701 to 800 in the same packs as cards number 1 to 700 when they did the late
Even though it was an extended set, kind of like Topps had done, and I guess Fleer had one too, that they were doing but they were box sets only. They weren't only available to dealers.
Only hobby available. Yeah. Upper Deck was saying, why don't we make these cards available to everyone?
But they put them in a box too.
They put them in a box too. They were both.
But you could get them in the pack.
But you could get them in a pack. Yeah. And the most expensive card in 89 out of the Upper Deck extended set was Jerome Walton.
Right, rookie of the year, but that's about it, I suppose.
Right, and he had a decent. I looked him up. He was still playing the major leagues like 10 years later. I mean, he wasn't a star or a starter, but he had a pretty decent overall major league career. But he never hit the heights that he did as a rookie in '89. But Upper Deck. So in a way, Upper Deck even got a break. Griffey had a nice year, but then they were able to put people like Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith into those high number cards. And there are other people too. There's Jim Abbott as a high number rookie. Todd Zeal, I think, maybe in a high number. I don't think Zeal, but Omar Vizquel definitely is a high number rookie card in '89. So they got a lot of guys right who came up during the year in '89.
Well, they had 800 shots at it.
That's true.
So that's not bad. But so Upper Deck's done a lot of things right, and they continue to. But again, the changing landscape with the rules changing, every company's had to adapt, and they've adapted. But I'm sure they'd like to have some additional licenses.
Everybody would like it.
Maybe that'll come up.
Everybody would like additional licenses. But, one of the things with 89 Upper Deck, their suggested retail price for a pack, and I don't know if anybody ever bought one at this price, was $1. And they were the first dollar pack, and we were all aghast in 89. How are we going to sell?
How are you going to get away with that? Yeah.
How are you going to get away with that? I mean,
there'll be a revolt.
Yeah, everybody's packs.
Consumers.
Everybody's packs were 50 cents each, 15, 16 for a box in a hobby store. It had been that way probably for the last 6 or 7 years with 50 cents, nice price for a pack.
Well, another angle for 89 Upper Deck, since the owner of the company, one of the owners had been a printer, and they had the hologram, but they also had superior quality control and paper compared to the standard of the day.
Right.
And so when you're looking at the pop reports for those cards, they generally are coming in pretty nice.
As they should, and they're also beautiful cards.
But again, compared to their competitors of the day.
We're not, we talk so much about the scarcity of 89 and the Griffey rookie, which is a beautiful card as it is. It's a great headshot of Griffey. Right. Even if the cap is a little bit airbrushed, that's okay. But the cards were so beautiful. The front photo, the back photo, the stats, the write-ups. Score was doing back photos, but the paper stock was so much better for 89 Upper Deck than the traditional cardboard stock.
Upper Deck had a different business paradigm of putting, again, if you're going to sell a pack for 25 cents or 50 cents, that you're limited on what you can put into it. If you double that, you can put more into it. So, but again, that's one of the flattery or imitation is the sincerest form of
flattery. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
And so they were imitated, and I don't know that they felt flattered.
No, it's hard, but they helped usher in.
Look at the 90s. The 90s had more slicker and shinier and other printing elements that had never even been contemplated in the 80s or the 70s.
I mean, it was almost a year-by-year progression. 90, you have Leaf. 91, you have Stadium Club. 92, you have... Even Bowman went from their cardboard to their fancier product. 93, you have Finest. I mean, it's a
Flair.
At
some point in
Flair is 93 also.
Yeah.
I mean,
so they all responded, and it wasn't immediate, but it was. So in that sense, Upper Deck was a pace setter. They did some cool things with their first hockey set. Was just really caught a wave with the English and French and all that. So they have a nice hockey legacy that they've continued.
And, they do great work. The Tim Horton set. Upper Deck's all over Canada, and that's still the home of hockey with the agreements they have with Tim Horton. They do the National Hockey Card Day, and they make these really cool sets that they, make sure stores have. They're excellent with promotions for both retail and for hobby retail. They make sure if you buy $10 worth of packs, you'll get, whatever card or sheet or set it is from Upper Deck at the store. So they're very good to this day. They're probably better now than they were when they were started because like any other startup, and that's really what they were, was a startup in 89. The fact that they got so hot probably precluded them from having to do as much outreach as they probably could have done if they had started the way the other companies had.
It's a scary thought, but in 89, they may not have been the hottest startup. With ProSet coming in with Blood Denny, they came on even stronger, or at least higher volume. The perception
higher volume. And the other thing was
they weren't
ProSet was the official, and ProSet's worthy, and Blood Denny's worthy of a tribute, of a talk by itself. It'd probably be more than one episode. We can do one, but then, there's more than out there. But the thing with ProSet is they became the official card of the NFL. So it was really a true partnership. If you look at the logos on 89 ProSet, they're the official card of the NFL.
Well, it was a living set.
Right.
More so than anything before.
Except for T206.
Except for T206. On the other hand, Upper Deck was more into superior printing technology, great paper, good photos, and the hologram and all that. So that was they had their own niche, and like we said, their niche was imitated. But there's something to be said for going first.
Yeah, and something else they did going first was the next year. I know we've been talking about 89, but in 1990 they had Reggie Jackson sign those 2,500 cards. They're really the first major manufacturer to have signed cards available.
Certified autographs in a pack. I got a question for you. If two cards look similar and they're only different by a little bit, does that mean one is a parallel to the other?
I think it depends. Sometimes it's a parallel, sometimes it's a variation, and sometimes it's a printing quirk.
My point is something a parallel if it wasn't available in the same pack?
I'm not sure.
It's a parallel set, but it's not parallel within the original product.
I'm
just thinking of that.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's some. I was the E&V guy at Beckett for 19 years. I'm the E&V guy. To some extent, I'm still an E&V guy at ComC.
And definitions are important.
And definitions are important. And I think it's like everything else. It's a bit of a moving target. You don't, and Bob Lemke, who's no longer with us, who did such great work for Krause, F&W, and, he didn't treat everything as a variation. He didn't treat everything as a parallel. Everything was an individual case. And I think that that's really what it comes down to, is everything's an individual case. It's almost a case-by-case basis.
Well, parallel is an accepted thing, and it came along a little bit later than this, but Upper Deck had errors that were corrected, but not too many, I don't think.
Right.
Was that the year where they did Dale Murphy?
Dale Murphy's 89, so is Pat Sheridan. There's a Gary Sheffield that I can never tell the difference with the S and S and shortstop being correct and upside down and everything.